Now that we're in episode 5, here's a quick recap. Holding a small service at home, the Greenleaf family contemplates its future and what it might mean to start over. Noah shares an insight into the house's history. Lady May goes to see Tara James and returns with the starting revelation. Hey guys, it's Tutu here. Now that I've given you a quick recap, I'm going to tell you my pros and cons from my favorite scene of episode 5 of Greenleaf, and then later, my predictions. So let's get into it. My first favorite scene was a scene between Bishop and Lady May talking on the stairs. So prior to that, Lady May comes in looking distraught, sad and everything, and Bishop is like, oh hey, how did it go? And she's like, I don't want to talk about it. And Bishop was like, wait a minute. You told the Greenleaf men they shouldn't come and help you out, so I want to know how it went. And so Lady May was like, I think we should give Tara the house. And Bishop was like, wait. What? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, I think we should give Tara the house. That I need a sign, and this is probably the sign that God has been giving me. And Bishop was just looking at Lady May like, God didn't tell me that. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, that's not gonna happen. So why I love that scene though was the fact that, like, just Lady May, after talking to Tara, she suddenly had this revelation like, oh, maybe she's right. We have this big ass house. We have so much space. Maybe this is what God meant when I said new beginnings. Like, maybe we should give the house. And so I loved it because it's like, oh wow, like she's trying to start all over. She's trying to clear her conscience, and it feels really good and everything. And Bishop is kind of confused, like, where's the Lady May I'm used to seeing? So that's why I loved it. Why I hated the scene though was because of the fact that, Bishop was very why I hated the scene was the fact that, Lady May suddenly changed. She suddenly did a 180. And it also made me hate this scene too, was the fact that it made Bishop like, is this the same person I'm seeing? Like, you would never do that. So her coming back and just saying like she should give Tara the house, I was like, that's a bit weird, because Lady May is a person who wants to fight for everything she worked for. So for her to come back and say that was interesting. And I think the reason why she did come back and say that though was the fact that she's still trying to deal with her past, and she's trying to move forward, start with a new beginning and everything. So I think having this revelation of the fact that maybe we should give Tara the house because God gave me a sign, and this is the new beginning of life and moving forward. And it was kind of a bit weird because I was like, that's not Lady May. She would never do that. She's very like, I worked for it, I deserve the house, But, we'll find out more later. So let's just move on, okay? The second favorite scene was Charity talking to Phil on the phone. And prior to that too, she called Phil, and basically she was talking to Phil of how, H&H wants to take over the church. Like, do you know anything about Phil DeMars that you can help us with? I know you hate your son. I was almost Miss DeMars, and I know you hate him, but can you at least help us, get the church back? Like, do you know anything? Like, just give me an opportunity to find out so we can get it back. Why I love the scene was the fact that Charity is now trying to help, and she's finally, being the Charity that we've known since season 1. So it's kind of nice to see that, her coming back into that. I know we all know she's gone through a lot, but it's nice to know like she's finally, being the old Charity that we know and love. Why I hated that scene though is because you could see that she didn't only just call Phil to try to find out how to get the church back, but she also called him to like vent to him, basically. Like, you could kind of tell she called him to like be like, your son is this, I almost married him. Like, it was basically like sort of a disguise for her to kind of like vent, like, I almost married your son, I truly loved him, like, what do I do? Even though she's trying to get the church back, but she also used that leverage to kind of like vent to him about it, vent to Phil's father, which I thought was kind of like, this is not the time to do that. It's like, I know you're trying to get the church back, that's why you called him, but I think you also called him to kind of vent about like what happened between you and Phil, which was kind of crazy. You know, that's why I hated that scene, because you could tell she was kind of venting a little bit. But you know what, moving on. The third favorite scene was the whole family doing church in the living room in their house. And I love that scene because it was so beautiful, like everybody coming together and basically, you know, just doing church. And Lady May saying that to new beginnings, and that's what I'm going to be preaching today. And so I thought it was beautiful. That's why I love the scene. That even AJ was there. I was like, oh wow, AJ is really, you know, growing and, you know, doing a little bit of growth, which is nice because he was such a bummer for almost 2 seasons. So it's nice to see him finally being like, okay, I'm gonna try. Let me try at least. Let me try. Why I hated that scene though is because, of course, you got Miss Carissa, aka Chlamydia to some people on YouTube, which is so funny. She is basically a party pooper, and she's like, you know, Lady May is preaching and saying that, you know, to new beginnings, and that we should be happy and, you know, in this new revelation of our lives. And Carissa's like, good luck. And then you get Jacob going, oh my god, like, can you just stop being Carissa for 1 second, basically? So I loved it because, like, everyone was there, and you could see that, like, people fight in front of family, so it's kind of, it was very kind of realistic, and I like that. They made it very realistic, like, oh, like, families fight in front of each other, so it's nice to see that they didn't, like, kind of sugarcoat that, where it was like, oh, don't say anything, and just, you know, fight in the room. Why I hated that scene, though, was the fact that, like, Carissa knows how to make everything about her. Like, she could take a great situation and, like, quickly turn it to her, like, I'm the victim, I'm this. I'm like, yes, Jacob did some bad things, and no one is condoning him. Like, no one is condoning him cheating and all of that. But I think for the longest time, Jacob did want to leave that relationship. Like, I mean, since season 1, he was never really in love with Carissa. I mean, if you could cheat 3 times, like, that tells you, like, he was never really in love with Carissa. Maybe, yes, sometimes men do cheat because they can a lot of the time, but when there's some men who know why they're doing it, and then you see that, it's nice to know, like, they have a reason to, instead of just doing it to do it. Even though I'm not condoning that, just to be clear, I am not condoning men cheating at all. I know. But Carissa just knows how to turn things into her being the victim. And I'm like, bro, everyone's doing church right now. Why do you have to ruin it? Why do you have to do that? Like, I hated that scene because Carissa just always know how to ruin it. I'm like, you guys are doing church right now. Why are you trying to turn, you know, a little mass into your own victimized, you know, thing? Because she did some stuff too. She did. So I don't know why she's acting like she didn't. My fourth favorite scene was the scene between Grace and Noah, and when Noah was with Grace in Grace's room. And prior to that, you know, Grace and Noah were just having a little talking, and come to find out, Grace had sex in church with Noah. So AKA AJ was born. Like he was conceived in church, and I was very surprised. I was like, I mean, I know Grace could be a lot of things, and I know she's a person who can take risk if she really wanted to. I didn't know she could take that much of a risk having sex in Calvary. I was kind of like, I was not expecting that. But, you know, so Noah and Grace are sitting in their room, and, you know, Grace is kind of venting to Noah, like, how so much things are happening. They're about to lose the house. We don't know anything about Bob Whitmore and what he's planning. And she's just like, I don't even know what to do. Like, I'm literally just so, like, torn. And, you know, she yawns a little bit, and Noah's like, you're tired. And she's like, yes, I certainly am tired. And so, you know, Noah and his cute self, he was like, why don't you just lie on me? And of course, Grace being Grace, she was like, this is not Concentration Sunday. It's not like when we, you know, did our little thing at church when we were younger. And he's like, no, I know, that's not what I'm talking about. Just lie down, you're tired, get some energy. And she's like, okay. And so she does that. Then she wakes up, and, you know, Noah has this kind of epiphany, like, why would Bob Whitmore why would someone want the house? Why would, you know, what's his name? Why would Tara James, you know, want the house, you know? Like, Daryl James, yes, Daryl James. Why would Daryl James, like, want the house? Why would he want it? So Noah's basically trying to figure that out in his mind. And so he tells Grace, and she's like, when I used to live in the cabin with you, when I used to live in the cabin here, I found this old book of the caretaker who used to build the house, who would help build the house, and he would sort of map out which places he, you know, was like doing. And so for some reason Noah was like, maybe he thought he was gonna get the house when, you know, Miss Davis died. And so Grace was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, but what was more interesting, the caretaker was white, like Miss Davis. And I was very shocked when I was like, the caretaker, Miss Davis, is white? Like, wait, what? I thought she was black the whole entire time. Because you hearing Miss Davis, you think of, like, that could be connected to a black person, right? Like, you would think that. But the caretaker was white, and Miss Davis was white too. And so he would say that this Negro always came around, that Negro was here again and stuff. And so I think the caretaker kind of thought that he was going to get the house. And so that's what Noah was explaining to Grace, and Grace was very surprised, and she wanted to know where it was. So why I love that scene, though, was the fact that, you know, Grace and Noah had their little moment. You know, it was cute to see them have their little moment, and Grace kind of like moving on really quickly, and, you know, letting Noah back into his life now that they both know they have a child together, you know, trying to be more open with him. So it was very nice for Grace to do that. Why I hated that scene, though, is because I feel like Noah is trying too hard to, like, have Grace back. Like, I feel like he's trying very, very hard to like win Grace's heart, and it's like cute but annoying, because, like, let her come to you. Like, he's doing all these things, like he's trying to help her get the house back, he's trying to help her get the church back, and it's just like, bro, like, I know you guys were cute at some point, but that's like history. Like, knowing who Grace is, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't end up together, because Grace doesn't really look like the type that would end up back with someone she dated like years ago. Like she looks like someone who wants to be single for the rest of her life. Sorry, I'm just admitting it. Some people are gonna be angry about that, but it's the facts. Like, it's facts. Like, Grace just looks like someone who just wants to be a single parent for the rest of her life and just, you know, take care of her kids on her own and figure everything out by herself. So, I mean, I would love for her to find love towards the end of the season, but knowing who she is, she's probably not going to do that. So, but moving on. My last favorite scene was the scene between Carissa and Jacob. Well, this was technically in the beginning of the episode, but you know, that doesn't even matter. Why prior to that, you know, Jacob and Carissa were fighting, they were talking, and Carissa's like, Jacob, are you really ready to tell Zora about us getting divorced? And he's like, yeah, straight speed ahead, right? And Carissa, with her loud mouth, obviously, she was like, for everything your mother does to run you, you're able to talk to your daughter about this? And he's like, yeah. She's like, okay. And she said a bunch of other things that I can't really remember right now. But the one thing I remember what Jacob said, though, was the fact that he was like, all those times you and Fernando were in the office, were you thinking about your kids then? Yeah, I didn't think so. I wasn't thinking about the kids when I slept with a bunch of women. You weren't thinking about the kids when you slept with one guy. So, I mean, we're both even. No? So it was kind of like, I don't think you should say that, even though it's true, but he's not wrong. Carissa wasn't thinking about the kids when she had an affair herself, so I'm kind of like, you know, you guys are both even. Yes, he cheated a lot more, but he didn't come back with an STD, and didn't tell you about it after you gave it to him, so, I mean, but it's still not, they're still both wrong. I think they still both played an equal part, 100%, no doubt. But why I love that scene was the fact that, you know, Jacob was, you could see Jacob so confident when it comes to Carissa. Like, he's like, listen, I literally don't want to be married to you. Like, I should have known that, like, since season 1, but I didn't. So I'm saying it now. So I love it because Jacob is finally standing up to Carissa. Like, he's being a man about it, which is very nice. But why I hated it was the fact that Carissa just doesn't know how not to, like, she doesn't want a divorce, but she doesn't know how to say, like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have cheated. So you can give him a leeway to be like, I'm sorry, I cheated too. And then they can kind of, you know, squash it, because she doesn't want a divorce. And that's why I hated that scene, because, like, you don't want this, but yet you're doing everything in your power to literally, like, get a divorce somehow, some way. Like, it's ridiculous. That's why I hated it. So that's all of my favorite scenes. Now, time for my predictions. My first prediction is that we're definitely going to find out why Rochelle is back. Spoiler alert, Rochelle is back. If no one has watched it, sorry, spoiler. And it's very interesting that she's back, because I knew that storyline wasn't over. For them to easily just suddenly get the church back and her disappearing out of nowhere, I wasn't even surprised. Like, when I saw it, when everybody started tweeting about it and say Rochelle is back, after I watched the episode, I was like, I wasn't even shocked. I was just like, oh, well, I'm not surprised. I didn't think that story was over anyway. So we're definitely going to find out why. I think we kind of already know why she's back, because of the house, but it could be a bunch of other things too. So, but we'll find out. My second prediction is Grace is finally gonna meet Shabazz face to face. He's finally gonna get in touch with Grace. Shabazz is Phil's father, if nobody knows. So I think she's definitely gonna meet with Phil's father face to face at some point. Because there's some scenes where you're like, okay, they're definitely going to, you know, like meet face to face. My third prediction is we're gonna see Bob Whitmore again at some point. He's definitely gonna come back because for a majority of the season, he hasn't appeared in any episodes, like none whatsoever. I mean, none that I don't remember him appearing in. So we haven't seen him. So I know he's definitely gonna come towards the end of the season, before the final season, because, you know. And my fourth favorite scene is that we're gonna find out more about Edenvale Lending, and that's some type of company that Darius went to go and, you know, do some research on, fly out to go do some more research. So we're definitely gonna find out more about that and why Bob Whitmore is trying to make that company sound like it never existed, which is very shady in my case. I mean, it's a bit shady. Because if you're trying to get a black church, why are you trying to be shady about it? You know, like just... But, my last and final favorite scene is that there's going to be a fight between H&H and the Greenleafs. There's going to be Greenleaf versus H&H. Yeah, there's definitely, and no one is going to go down without a fight. I could just see it right now. Like, there's going to be back and forth, and no one is going to be giving up to get Calvary back. Somehow. I think they're definitely going to get their church and the home back. I think the one realistic thing that is probably not going to be realistic is the fact that they're definitely going to get Calvary and the church back. You know, because in real life, sometimes you don't get things back. You actually lose them. So I think that one is going to not be realistic. I also think what's not going to be a realistic, really, is that I wouldn't be surprised if Jacob and Carissa get back together. I would not. I mean, it would be more realistic if they actually did separate, like some people do in real life, where you just separate and it just has to be like that. But that is all, guys. You know, that's literally it. Please like this video. Please subscribe. Please comment. You know, put any suggestions in the comment if you want me to talk about other things. And I have more in store. But thanks for watching. Bye. Love you.